TV Toastmasters Club 9523. The club is now in session. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a beautiful fall morning, and we'd like you to join us down here at the Anderson Center. We meet the third Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. As I said, it's a beautiful fall day. The leaves are falling, the footballs are flying. There's a definite chill in the morning now. But here at TV Toastmasters, we are having a slight challenge because for the first time since I've been a member of this club, we are having a meeting without Carol Cormelink. So we're a little bit hesitant, a little bit afraid, not quite sure how it's going to go, but please bear with us because our patron saint of Toastmasters, Carol Cormelink, is a little bit under the weather today. So Carol, if you're watching, get well, and we'll try to muster through without you. We have a great meeting today, several fantastic speakers who are giving their first speeches, so we're very excited. And with that, I'd like to bring forward our Toastmaster for today, who also happens to be our area governor. Please welcome Tiffany Everett.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, fellow Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky viewing audience and our audience here. We are going to have three fabulous speakers. We're going to learn an interesting word of the day, and we're going to have an opportunity to speak on our feet. We'll also be hearing from three evaluators later on. Our first order of business is to learn a new word of the day, and that today is going to be provided by Steve Ahrenholz. I would like to bring up Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests that are watching in today. The word of today is conundrum, and conundrum is a noun. There are two meanings for it. The first is a riddle to which the answer involves a pun or play on words. A lot of you might have remembered the one from when you're a child and it says, "What's black and white and red all over?" And it's a newspaper. The other meaning for conundrum is anything that puzzles. And I think right now, at least to most of us, a lot of the things that are going on around us are a conundrum. That is the word of the day. See if you can weave it into your speaking in some manner. Let me turn it back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you. I'm going to a Halloween party tonight where all of our costumes are a conundrum. I'm looking forward to that. Our next order of business today is our opportunity to think on our feet, to be impromptu speakers. That's also known as Tabletopics. Today our Tabletopics are going to be led by Jerome Manigan. I'd like to bring Jerome up to the stage. I'm looking forward to hearing his questions.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and to my fellow Toastmasters. Conundrum, conundrum, conundrum. Is that how you pronounce that word?
Conundrum.
Conundrum, all right. Anyway, media is filled with stories about the state of the national economy and the world economy. I'm going to call up three responders to questions that I have about the economy. They will have between 1 and 2 minutes to give a response. Now, you do not have to respond directly to the question. You may answer the question, you may answer a previous question, or you may go entirely off topic. Tabletopics is an opportunity for you to practice your extemporaneous speaking skills. It's an opportunity for you to gain confidence, assurance in your ability to stand before people and answer questions or just carry on a conversation, a monologue, a dialogue, whatever, a soliloquy about whatever it is you choose to talk about. All right? Now, first question. I'm going to ask Tina Davis to come up and respond to this first question. Media is filled with all sorts of stories about the national and the international economy. What have been your reactions to these stories?
These stories have presented to me situations that make me a little fearful of what lies ahead, but yet I feel like in all things do work together for good of those who love God, and in my heart everything is going to be all right. So this is actually my thoughts on this question.
Thank you very much, Tina. Gordon Kelly, would you please join us? Gordon, if you were the United States Secretary of the Treasury, what would you say to calm the financial anxieties of the American citizens?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. Good morning. For one, it's new. I think everybody knows by now that Tina's my wife, and this is the first day that we've driven together to Toastmasters as husband and wife. And if you remember all of my past comments about coming down 52 and how nice it was and how quiet the drive was, and I just took my time and drove down through there. Well, today was a new experience because today we were worried about hitting squirrels. We were worried about actually hitting the deer. I didn't realize it, but I have been taking the wrong route to Toastmasters, and I'm driving too slow to Toastmasters. So, yeah, and that's just the facts, you know. But it was an enjoyable ride anyway. So, we did take our time to get here. It took about an hour and a half. As far as what Jerome was saying there, the thing that I've watched with all the news media that's been going on lately and the things that are going on that we really don't have any control over, at least we don't think we have any control over, my basic comment is that I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make that get them into these situations is the fact that everybody goes out and spends money they just don't have. And some of us have very stable jobs, such as if you work at the post office. Others don't have those types of jobs, especially the place I work at, let's say. They can change and restructure and consolidate and let people go. And those, I think in those areas where people are working, where they really don't have a guaranteed income for 20 or 30 years, let's say, they need to stop going into mortgages. They need to stop buying the big new cars. And they need to, if you have $1, okay, spend $1. If you have $1, don't go spend $10. And that's my opinion on that topic.
Thank you very much, Gordon. I'm going to ask Christine Sullivan to join me. Thank you, Christine. I think, Christine, you've heard that the economy has presented a conundrum. Is that how you said that word? Conundrum. For everybody. Everybody. And I think Gordon, on his drive from Maysville, Kentucky, has had an opportunity to discuss with Tina his ideas about the economy and what can be done to remedy many of the problems that we are facing. And I think Gordon pointed out that we should really live within our means. That would go a long way to help straighten out this situation. Which brings me to this question for you. As we move into 2009, what do you think will be the effects of the current worldwide economic situation on global trade agreements?
Thank you. I think the American economy is driving a lot of the other economies worldwide, and I think we're seeing the effects in other economies and also stock markets immediately, and it's going to create a ripple effect. I think America believes that they are the top dog and drive everything. And I think we're seeing worldwide that some organizations in some countries are really questioning if that's a valid model today and whether that should still be the status quo. And so I think we're going to see some ripple effects happen worldwide because of the American economy and how it's directly impacting other economies today. With that, I think Americans are going to see not only tightening of their own belts, but also worldwide as well. And I think that's going to be a huge adjustment for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. As you've just seen, our 3 table topic responders, Tina, Gordon, and Christine, have done an excellent job of showing you how this extemporaneous speaking session known as Tabletopics works in our meetings. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jerome, for bringing everything to light. Our first speaker today is going to be giving his icebreaker speech, which is a speech for us to get to know him. He said that he is looking forward to giving his speech. He has many ideas, and he's talking about something all of us can talk about, our school experiences. So I'd like to bring up Don Wess, who is going to be talking about his school experiences growing up. Don.
Thank you, Mrs. Toastmaster, and it's a pleasure to be here, studio audience and viewing audience. Today, as the introductory speaker mentioned, I'm going to talk about some experiences of my life so that you can learn a little more about myself, some of my experiences and some of my things that I've accomplished, things that I've done. And to do that, I've focused down a little bit because of the time limits that we've got 6 minutes approximately. And so I want to focus on my academic or educational experiences. And I'll start from the beginning, telling you about the school I went to and some of the experiences at the schools that kind of stand out in my mind. So, number 1, first school, kindergarten. So we start from way back in kindergarten. It's September, and it's my first day in kindergarten. And I'm going to St. Clement's Kindergarten. It's over in St. Bernard. It's still operating. They still have kindergarten there. I have a daughter that goes to St. Clement's. She's in the fifth grade. My first experience there wasn't a real pleasant one, but it's one that'll stay in my memory for all my life. I didn't want to leave my mom. She walked me to school, and I hung on to her, and I was angry, and I was fearful, and I didn't want her to be leaving, and I didn't want to stay in this place. I was sitting at my desk with the promise that Mom was going to stand in the back. And I turned around and looked, and she was gone. And my heart kind of sank, and I put my head on my desk, and I know I was crying, wondering what had happened or why do I have to stay here at this place. That's my first memory of kindergarten. Not very pleasant, but it's still a memory, and I still kind of enjoy thinking about that once in a while because it was part of my life. Another more little happier thing, a lighter thing, was one thing I remember in kindergarten was that we had this big box full of musical instruments, and we had a kindergarten band. And we used to get up on the stage, and everyone would get a different kind of instruments. We had kazoos, and we had drums, and we had whistles and bells, and all kind of instruments that you could think of, and everybody got one, and we stood up in a line and started playing with some music in the background. And I always liked the triangle. There were 2 triangles, and I always tried to get one of those because for some reason I liked that one. I could tink it, and it sounded like a bell. And another one of the boys, Joe, someone, had one too, so both of us kind of enjoyed playing that particular instrument. And that's another memory that stayed in my mind. I don't know how often we did that, but maybe once a week or so we got up there. We went to kindergarten like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I had the afternoon session from 12 to 3. So all told, the experience turned out pretty well, even though it didn't start out very well for me. School number 2, St. Thomas grade school. I went to St. Thomas all 8 years. It's over in North Avondale, or it was. It's no longer functioning as a school. The building is still there. It's used as well, it's actually a school called the New School. The building was a mansion owned by the Mitchell family. Mitchell Avenue was named after them. It was an old estate. It looked like a baron's estate, or a huge building made out of these stone blocks. Had towers and big porch and all kind of rooms inside. And we used 4 of the rooms for our school. We had 2 grades in each room, about 100 kids all together. I remember the kids there at the school, especially, that's the first thing that came to my mind. There were Marys, lots of Marys, a Jane, a Joan, Jim, Tom, Bill. And I was one of the boys there at the school. One of the boys I particularly remember is Walter. He was always into some kind of mischief, and he was very athletic. He liked to climb trees, climb on roofs of buildings. He could jump off of things that everybody else stood in amazement at the things that he could do. His abilities, kind of daredevil type abilities. Well, he joined the Army after graduating from the grade school, and was into high school and joined the Army. And he was taken captive. And Walter was not one that could be confined. He did not like to be confined, so he tried to get away, and he could run pretty fast, but not as fast as the bullet, so he was killed. And that was a sad thing for us to have as a memory of Walter from our school there at St. Thomas. Another experience was a basketball team. We had a basketball team, the 8th grade. There were 5 kids on the team, so nobody was a sub. We all got to play. Every Saturday, we got on the bus and went down up Mitchell Avenue and down Reading Road and got onto the commons there. It's called Deer Creek Commons. It's not there anymore. It's somewhere around where the new baseball park was going to be built. And there was a field house there, kind of a small place, just had enough for a basketball court. And there were 4 teams in the league. The Kennedy Kittens, the DeSales team, and Hennigan Dairy, and St. Thomas. Well, to make it, we were kind of running short on time, but we lost almost all our games. I think we could beat one of the teams there, Hennigan Dairy. But then we had a tournament at the end, and we won the first game. We won the second game, so we won the tournament, and that was a thrill for all of us. When at the time when winning and losing made a difference to us. Now the 3rd school was my high school. I need to stop there, but I'm thinking maybe, I know this is an introductory speech and there's supposed to be one of these, then I'm supposed to move to a different level, but maybe, I don't know if I can break the rules and stay on this level another time for another speech and continue my story of my educational experiences. So we thank you, the audience, and Mrs. Toastmaster.
Thank you for a great speech about your life, Don. Our second prepared speech for today is also an icebreaker, which will be done by Christine Sullivan. Christine's title of her speech is The Progression of Her Careers. She is a new Toastmaster, and she's working on her first project in her Competent Communicators Manual. I know everybody here has a career at one point or other, and I'm looking forward to hearing this speech. Christine Sullivan, The Progression of Our Careers. The Progression of My Careers, Christine Sullivan.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow members, guests, and TV audience, I recently found myself in a conundrum. About a month ago, my employer came to me and said he needed to reduce expenses. And because of the economic situation, I was suddenly being downsized. After I got over the shock, I had to sit down and think about what are my skill sets, what are my strengths, and where do I want to be in my career. And it caused me to do some reflection about where I've been and the different careers I've had. And I've had 3 solid careers, and I'm only in my late 30s. So I'm sure I'll have many more. But about 20 years ago, I started in theater. And when I say theater, a lot of people think acting. That's not the case. I actually was in technical theater doing set construction, props, costuming, set painting, and I wore a lot of different hats over a couple of years and learned the different inner workings of how putting on a show really operates. And one of the things I learned is there's a key role in theater called a stage manager. And that role is basically there to make sure that things run smoothly, not only from a technical aspect of a production, but also having the people skills necessary to pull it off. And that's what I took with me from my experience in theater, is that everything needs a stage manager in life. I'm a firm believer of that, regardless of what it is. But I wound up leaving theater because I didn't want to live the life of a vagabond, living out of suitcases, traveling from place to place, working at nights, working all the time. So I wound up going into market research. And I spent some time actually doing interviews and doing surveys with lay people off the street as well as professionals. And it really allowed me to hone my speaking skills, my listening skills, to glean what people's opinions were about various subjects. And I found that very interesting, as well as the analytical piece of doing the data analysis associated with that collection of data. But again, I didn't want to work nights. Since most people tended to be home at nights and on weekends, that's primarily when I worked. So I moved on to my 3rd career. And I wound up going into that career strictly by happenstance. I actually started in healthcare as a temp. And when I say healthcare, most people think clinical. Not so. I actually got into the financial side of healthcare, mostly on the revenue reimbursement side and the financial aspects of the entire revenue cycle. And I've taken on many different roles in the 14 years I've been in healthcare, on the provider side as well as on the consulting side. And I found that I really, truly enjoy it. It's something I want to continue doing, I want to pursue. And so I went about aggressively pursuing specific firms that I wanted to work for. And I'm happy to say that I have an offer on the table from a consulting firm that should be finalized by next week. I'm really grateful to do what I want to do and do what I love doing. And the skills that I learned along the way from all my various careers, working as a team, interviewing and listening to people, problem solving, all of these have helped me manage projects and add value to healthcare providers and help them believe that they can be financially solvent. Though I've had all these different careers in various industries, I feel like I've come full circle. I worked all hours of the day and night in a consulting role, living the life of a vagabond, living in different cities, being part of a team, working together to turn fantasies into reality. Once again, thank you very much.
Our 3rd speaker today is a person who has given 20 speeches already. He is an advanced communicator bronze. Darren Henderson is going to be doing speech 3 from the Persuasive Speaking Manual, which the objective on that is to prepare a proposal advocating an ideal or course of action. We in the studio audience today are a group of investors gathered to hear his business proposal. The title of his speech is Our Sweet Opportunity, Darren Henderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow audience members, good morning and thank you all for coming. Now, these are tough times economically, so I won't beat around the bush. I'm here to make money. You are here to make money. I'm here to help you make money. I have an idea which I believe will revolutionize the dessert business. When I was a small boy, my mother made the most delicious dessert ever concocted. I loved it. And when I became an adult, I took my mother's recipe and spent the next 20 years trying to perfect it. Today, I would like you to join me on my journey to introduce the sweet potato pie to the masses. For those of you who do not know, a sweet potato pie is similar to a pumpkin pie with one big difference. It's much, much better. Sweet potato pie has a kick that a pumpkin pie will never have. Sorry, pumpkin. The combination of sweet potato, cinnamon, and brown sugar flavors makes a pie which is impossible to resist. After my speech, please join me in the back of the room so you can sample my product, Helen's Heavenly Sweet Potato Pie. As you may imagine, Helen was my mother, or is my mother rather. Now, sweet potato pie has long been a staple in the kitchens of African American and Southern families, but most people in the Midwest have never actually had a good sweet potato pie. As I mentioned earlier, I've experimented with different ingredients over the past 20 years, and I've utilized my training as an engineer by employing a technique common in science called design of experiments. This has allowed me to reduce the variation of each pie and to optimize the type of ingredients and the amount of each ingredient within the pie to come up with the perfect recipe. Also, I've utilized trained testers and statistical control methods to once again perfect my pie recipe. Now, the result is a pie that hundreds of people have tasted, and almost everyone agrees is the most perfect sweet potato pie they've ever tasted. Now, what makes my pie different? As I mentioned, I've perfected the recipe, and it is absolutely delicious. But there are also a couple more problems that most sweet potato pies have. First is what I call the soggy crust. A lot of sweet potato pies will have a soggy crust, which I hate. My cooking method completely takes away that problem. The other problem with some sweet potato pies is that they contain strings or lumps. Well, my mixing method completely removes the strings or the lumps. Those problems are gone forever. Now, I've tasted just about every commercially produced sweet potato pie over the past 10 years, and the best of them is slightly above average. Most are horrible. Helen's sweet potato pie will be a godsend to those of you who already love sweet potato pie, and an exciting discovery to those of you who've never had it before. You know why I'm standing in front of you, but why did I invite you all here? How can you play a role in this exciting new idea? Well, I need funding to get this idea off the ground. But I'm not coming to you empty-handed. I have several things to offer. First, I am providing 50% of the initial seed money needed to get this project off the ground. I would like to secure the other 50% from those of you in the audience today. Second, I have a solid business plan. I have contracted with a Cincinnati bakery to produce my pies at $1 per pie, which is a very good price. I plan to sell the pies to grocery stores and restaurant chains for $4.50 per pie, which is a nice profit margin. And I expect the pies to retail from between $5.99 to $7.99 per pie, depending upon the retailer. Now let me tell you how I plan to market this product. Now, sweet potato pie is an excellent food year-round, but I primarily expect it to be a very seasonal business. Between September and February is going to be our main focus period. And my goal is to have agreements in place to be able to deliver pies to retailers and grocery stores in September of 2009, so we'll hit that fall and Christmas season for next year. I've made contacts with several major grocery chains and several regional retailers, and several of those potential customers have tasted Helen's Heavenly Sweet Potato Pie, and they are very excited. I've gotten so far as to have verbal commitments from several of the customers that they are interested in this product. By March 2009, I plan to have firm commitments from a major Midwest grocery chain as well as several local restaurants. Now, I can't mention those names due to contract until we sign those contracts, but rest assured, these are familiar names that you're accustomed to, and it will help this product get off to a fast start. Now, the second phase of growth will involve selling my pie to major retailers like Costco, Walmart, or Target. It would be a perfect addition to their fall and Christmas offerings. Then, once we get the branding out there, I also plan to offer this pie online. And we expect the online sales, which of course will be able to go to any state in the 48 contiguous states. We expect the online sales to be quite significant as word of mouth travels. And so that will be another large part of our business. So the other good part of this plan is that we've got multiple facets where income will be coming in based upon pie sales. So how can you become involved in this exciting venture? Obviously, I'm asking you to invest today. I'm looking for $75,000 in additional seed money from those of you in the audience. Now, the smallest investment possible is going to be $1,000. So I'm asking you to invest at least $1,000 if you choose to take part in this venture. As you mingle and taste the pie in the back of the room, several of my associates will be there to answer questions along with myself. Now, based upon my conservative projections, the value of your investment will increase by 30% each year, and you will have your investment back within 2 years. And I expect within 4 years that your investment will triple. I've got market projections and third-party analysis of this business, which I can share with you after the meeting. Now, when I compare my product to the growth curve of similar specialty dessert products, this goal is definitely within reach. Once again, I'd like to thank you for coming. This is a very exciting time for me, and I hope that you will be able to join me in my adventure. At this time, let's adjourn to the back of the room where you can enjoy samples of Heaven's Heavenly Sweet Potato Pie. Madam Toastmaster.
Every Toastmaster meeting has 3 parts. We have our speaking on our feet, we have our prepared speeches, and now we're going into our third part, the evaluation part. And today our general evaluator is Stephen Ahrenholz, who will be coming up to bring up his evaluation team. Steve.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests. This is the portion of the meeting where we will provide feedback to our speakers and our other participants in today's Toastmaster meeting. An important part of a Toastmasters meeting is to provide people with feedback on what they're doing well, some of the things that they might want to consider revising in future presentations to further enhance their speaking abilities, and to overall provide them with a perspective on how well they are doing in achieving the various goals that they have set out to accomplish as a part of their presentations. I have 3 evaluators who will be giving us their perspectives on the 3 speakers that we have heard today. I would like to call up our first evaluator, Laura Lee Gayfield. Laura Lee?
Thank you, Steve. I had the honor today of evaluating Don Wess's icebreaker speech. Thank you very much. Sometimes getting that first one is such a big hurdle. Congratulations for taking that first step and getting your first Toastmaster speech done. The Schools I Attended was the title, and I thought it was a very unique way for us to get to know a little bit more about an education. Oftentimes that's something we don't really hear about, especially going back so far. We may hear more about an adult or college set of education from somebody in our normal speaking interactions with somebody, but you went all the way back to those first days, and probably I would imagine that a lot of people here in the studio audience and also at home could probably relate to that first day of kindergarten, either themselves wondering where their mom went to, or being the mother or the parent themselves taking the child to school. I'm sure she was just as devastated by that whole experience as you were, but it was a very sweet memory to share with us. I love the music. A lot of us do have, I think, a lot of early memories, some of our first memories of music in a school setting. Now it seems so much more structured that it seems really fun to me. I would have loved, even now, you could still give to me a box of musical instruments now, and how the triangle was your favorite. On your strong points, your voice projects very well. It was a little bit shaky, but that's just from nervousness. It wasn't probably as shaky as you might have thought it was when you go back and look at the tape later. So some more practice, and that will be more under control for you. I thought you had a definite introduction to your speech where you told us how you were going to take us down the road of your education. I think the timing of it threw you off. I'm not really sure where you were in the timing. I think you thought you were going over. I'm not really sure where. So practicing the timing of your speech ahead of time, having a couple of stories, and maybe one to throw in or take out at the last minute to have your conclusion in there would be great as well. You had notes ahead of time. I thought I saw them anyway, but you didn't bring them with you. Even if you don't need them, you can still bring them up with you this early in the Toastmaster projects, at least as a crutch. Sometimes it might just make you feel better, even if you don't actually use them. At least they're there. Let's see. Well, I think you did a great job. I look forward to hearing more about your education. It seems like a very big part of your life. Thank you for sharing those little tidbits with you, and we'll look forward to hearing more about your speeches later. Thank you, Don. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Laura Lee. Our next evaluator will be Joe Schwerling, and he will be giving us his evaluation of Christine Sullivan's icebreaker speech. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, audience, and especially Christine. Thank you for your informative icebreaker. I think it was very well presented. You, I think, have already gained a lot of, maybe from observing the theatrical situations and, of course, your various business opportunities, as I think you're feel quite poised and confident when you're standing here. Your progression of your careers gave us all a good insight, as was the objective of the speech. Information about yourself through your experiences, and that's how we all learn. And that's one of the things I like best about Toastmasters is no matter what kind of speech we're all giving, they're all sort of an icebreaker, because you talk about things you've experienced, things you would like to be doing, and that's how we all get to know each other, and we live vicariously through others. Although in many cases it may be a conundrum why we didn't get into that field, or what would happen if we had, or various things that happened along the way. Obviously you're well prepared. You weren't using any notes. The only real suggestion I have was that I think you could have added a little more volume and vocal variety, emotion, just to really grab the audience's attention. Stronger opening, maybe to match your conclusion. Your conclusion was, once I can find it, basically turning your fantasies into realities. Well, you could have opened with a statement like, what's your fantasy for the perfect career, or something on that line. Asking an audience a question is always a good starting point. It gets the audience's attention, it gets them thinking, and gets them right into it. And again, with as much emotion and vocal emphasis and variety as possible, really helps maintain the attention. I think you do very good with your personal hand gestures, a lot better than I do. My hands are just kind of waving around, but I'm going to try to learn from you where you're keeping them down when not needed, and then just gesture where it was appropriate. So good on your icebreaker speech, and look forward to many more in the future. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Joe. Our third evaluator today will be Gordon Kelly, and he's going to give us his evaluation for Darren Henderson's speech. Gordon?
Thank you, Steve. Two comments before I get into the evaluation. One is, my whole life is a conundrum. And the second is, I want Carol to be real clear that after my drive this morning, she now knows that I will do anything for Toastmasters. So that, I'll buy you dinner. As the evaluator of this speech for Darren Henderson, it is my job to provide the speaker, Darren Henderson, with verbal and written feedback to help him improve his skills as a speaker. And obviously, you can tell that Darren's very experienced and his transition is very smooth, but I will evaluate him. In the book, what it says is, note to the evaluator, the speaker is asked to prepare and present a proposal advocating an idea or course of action which he or she would like the audience to approve. Number one, it says, how clear was the proposal's objective? And I said, very clear. He's here to help you make money. That was pretty much his opening statement. He's here to help us make money. And he explained that early, which set the stage, I thought. How well was the proposal directed to the intended audience? I thought, obviously, it's very directed because we all eat, and most of us probably eat those pies. I think we've got one in the fridge right now. Did the speaker address the negative and positive aspects of the proposal? And he did. Most of it, he, of course, slanted to the positive. The big negative that I saw was the 50% investment, especially after we talked about the economy and how bad it is. We shouldn't be spending money we don't have, so I don't have the 50%. Was the proposal well organized and logical? I thought it was very well organized. It was specifically for sweet potato pie, and I thought the phasing in of selling the sweet potato pie was very good. How effective was the speaker's delivery? Again, very good. His eye contact, physical posture, his hand movements, and his voice inflections. Darren has very good, I think, voice inflections because he's able to do that and inflect them, but at the same time, they seem to be very smooth at doing it. So I thought that was very good. What could the speaker have said to make the proposal more effective? This is a big one. He wants $75,000. I mean, give me a break here. I didn't hear stocks. I didn't hear dividends, really. He talked a little bit about a return, and on the second year. The second year? And then the fourth year, we were going to triple the money. So really the thing that I thought that Darren could do a little more is show me the money. Overall, I think, Darren, you had a very good speech, and I really enjoyed it. And I'll turn it back over to Steve. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Gordon. My role, not only as general evaluator, is to give people feedback as the grammarian and counter. So I'm going to switch hats for the moment and give you the rundown on our ahs and ums and crutches, and also who used the word of the day. Jerome started our meeting with using the word of the day 4 times. Good job, Jerome.
Thank you for helping.
Gordon, let's see, in Tabletopics, I didn't have anybody using the word of the day. We had the word of the day used in Christine Sullivan's icebreaker speech, so good job, you incorporated conundrum in your speech. And let me see, as far as our evaluators, we had 2 of them that used the word of the day, Joe and Gordon. So we had several of you using our word of the day, as well as Tiffany. Ahs, crutches, restarts. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. We had Jerome, during your Tabletopics introductions, you used ahs 3 times, ahs or ums. Tina, in your table topic, you used no ahs, and I didn't catch any other real crutches either. I know you're looking quite amazed at that, but I didn't catch any. Gordon, you used 4 ahs, you had some restarts, you like to use I know, and you had a few breaks in your sentences where you would have I, the thing, or they need to if, sort of those breaks in your line of thinking. Christine, you had 1 restart. You also had a couple of times where you had an awkward linkage of putting sentences together. Something like, and I think, and then used something. So you had a disconnect there. Don, I know this is your icebreaker speech, so everyone has grace periods. You did use 13 ums and ahs. One of the other things that I noticed you do, because I tend to do this myself, you used and so. You would connect some of your sentences together into run-on sentences. I love run-on sentences. You'd use and so, and you had that. You had restart, or a double clutch. Christine, in your word, or in your icebreaker speech, no ahs or ums. Very little use of crutch words, too, so good job. Darren, I didn't pick up on any ahs, ums, no noticeable use of crutch words. You did really well. Among the evaluators, Laura Lee, you only had one ah. Joe, you had 3 ahs. Gordon, you had 2 ahs. So that's my report as the grammarian and the ah counter, and for the crutches. Now, as general evaluator, I need to get the timer report, and I will ask Tina to come up here and give us the timer report, and then I will follow up with my evaluation on the overall meeting and also some feedback for our evaluators. Tina?
Thank you, Steve. On table topics, that was me, I used 1.6 seconds. Gordon, 2.8 seconds. Christine, 1.7 seconds. Our scheduled speakers, Don, you use 7.16, 16 over. Christine Sullivan, 4.21. Darren Henderson, 7.21, 21 over. For our evaluators, Steve or Lori, for Don, used 2.43 seconds. Joe, for Christine, 2.42 seconds. Gordon, for Darren, 2.58 seconds. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. This is Tina's second time as timer, and you did a real good job. I think you were talking about minutes, though, because your table topic was longer than 1.6 seconds.
Pardon me.
I mean, you'd be talking really fast. They'd have to hire you for the FedEx commercials that we used to see. Now some comments on our meeting overall, and as I promised, some feedback for our evaluators. One of the things that I'd like people to be aware of is when you're up here and we have our microphone on the lectern, be careful what you do with your hands. Even though you don't hear it, when you put your hands down on the lectern or you make a gesture and it involves something that may seem like it's imperceptibly light pounding on this lectern, it transmits that to the microphone and our television audience can hear that. I've noticed that when I edit the film, you do notice it, and there's not anything we can do to get rid of that. So the impact noise of putting your hands on the lectern does transmit right to the microphone. So that's one of the things that we need to be careful of. It's normally not an issue at a Toastmasters meeting because we're not using microphones and we're not videotaping the meeting. Let me see what I've got here. This is my notes, you know. I mean, it's just like all over the place. And I'm thinking, where did I write what? I want to commend all of our evaluators today because they've given you the opportunity to see the sandwich evaluation, which is where we will provide feedback to the speaker on what they're doing well as some growth areas, some things that they can consider incorporating in future speeches that will enhance their presentation abilities. Laura Lee, I wanted to commend you on a strong evaluation. You indicated what you liked, strong points. You talked about voice projection. You also gave Don a couple of things that he can do to enhance his speaking. I thought it was good that you gave him some reinforcement that even though he might have thought his voice was a bit shaky, it wasn't as shaky as he would have thought it was. We often think that what we see as a faux pas up here is a lot more perceptible than it really is. But it's good that we are conscious of that. You also gave him a real good suggestion as far as practice and including something in his speech that if you have to, because this is often what happens, you practice a speech and it gets you in at a certain time, and then when you actually present it, you find out that you're running long. So you have something that you can cut out, and the audience won't really even know it. Joe, on your presentation, giving an evaluation to Christine for her icebreaker speech, I thought you gave her some very good feedback. You gave her a suggestion for more vocal variety to grab attention. And I know that's one of the things that I struggle with myself is vocal variety. To get your audience to pay attention to you, and one of the ways to do that is through using vocal variety. I thought you also gave her some good insight on tying together her opening and her conclusion. I thought your comment on use of gestures was really good because I found you doing your gesture that you tend to do quite a bit, which is this rolling of the hands all the time. And I know for myself, I find it rather distracting. So I thought it was interesting at the end that you actually commented on something that you were also doing. Gordon, you did a good job evaluating Darren's presentation. I liked some of the humor that you introduced with "give me a break." He wants $75,000 and he needs to show me the money. I think that you might have been able to give Darren something a bit more in feedback on things to do as far as his speaking and presentation. You gave him some feedback, but I think it was a little more related to content, which is not usually something we comment too much on as far as our evaluations. We're looking more at what the individual is presenting as a part of their speech. And this is something where sometimes people will fall into this, and I'm not singling you out because I just wanted to point out that we want to focus on things that the person can do to enhance their presentation. Sometimes people will say, well, how do you evaluate somebody if you disagree with their topic? Well, you look at what they could have done to make it more persuasive or to bring you in, to win you over. You don't have to agree with what they're saying. So I want to commend you on your evaluation for Darren because you did give him some very good pointers. But I think that you might have wanted to give him some thoughts on maybe giving the audience a little bit more enthusiasm, get them sucked into this proposal. That's probably a rather loaded way to present that. I'm an Upper Midwester. I've never had sweet potato pie, so I have no idea what I've been missing. Tina, good job on the timers report. One of the things that I wanted to share with you and just to remind everyone else is when we do have our transition of the lectern, the Tabletopics master or Toastmaster or General Evaluator, whichever part of the meeting we're in, generally has control of the lectern, and when they have someone come up, you're turning over control of the lectern. So what you do when you're finished with your presentation is you wait for whoever the person is that's going to take back control of the lectern, and you shake their hand, and then you leave, rather than just, I'm finished and walking away. Because that way the lectern is not out of control, but it's not under control. And so you want to have an orderly transition, and that's one of the things that I've seen other people do this, and even people who've been in Toastmasters for a while. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The other thing that I'm going to just remind people of, and I didn't really hear it today, but we stand on a podium and we stand behind a lectern. Podium comes from foot, so it's what's under our foot is the podium, and then the lectern is what we stand behind, and is one of the things we do not want to pound on here in TV Toastmasters. I'm going to turn this meeting back to the control of our Toastmaster. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Steve, for a fabulous support. Mr. Pumpkin, did we have a good meeting today? Yes, we did. I'd like to turn everything back over to our president, who will adjourn us for this meeting, Darren Henderson.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to have a few comments from Steve Ahrenholz in his role as the Vice President of Public Relations.
Thank you, Darren. I wanted to welcome our three guests that we have here today with us in our studio. Tina Kelly is back visiting with us again, and we would certainly like you to join us. So please do come back again, join us, but even if you're not quite ready to do that, come back and join us some more and participate in some of our meetings. We love to have you here. We're glad you were able to bring Gordon along with you today. We've missed having Gordon here. We also have Joe Schwerling, who is a frequent guest of TV Toastmasters and is well known in Toastmaster circles, and of course he was here in his orange today, a bit more subdued than some of his oranges are, but this is Joe's kind of season, and his birthday's coming up too, because isn't your birthday on Halloween?
Day before.
Day before, okay. And our third visitor today is David Sullivan. Thank you for coming and visiting us. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us here today, and we hope you'll come back. If you'd like more information on TV Toastmasters, you can go online to www.tvtoastmasters, it's tvtm.freetoasthost, that's all together.com. With that, I'm going to turn it back to our president. Mr. President?
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Real quick, another great meeting. We survived without Carol, which is a great thing to know. We can't have a meeting without Carol Cormelink. And just one quick comment, Gord, if you thought your drive up here was bad, I think your drive home may be more challenging based upon some of your comments today. With that, I'd like to adjourn TV Toastmasters Club 9523. Meeting adjourned.